Hey guys, wanted to tell you real quick about our podcast host and sponsor, Anchor.fm. If you're thinking about starting your own podcast, I highly recommend Anchor. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go out to Anchor.fm to get started. That's Anchor.fm. Now back to the show. The Cannabis Heals Me Podcast, episode 113.
You're listening to the Cannabis Heals Me podcast, where we explore the real stories of real people who have discovered the profound healing properties of the cannabis plant in their own lives. Find more at cannabishealsme.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cannabis Heals Me podcast. This is your host, Rachel Kennerly, and you can probably tell I am not coming to you from the Story Begin Studios. I'm actually at an Airbnb in Gulfport, Mississippi, but I wanted to get this episode out. I promised it to you guys, so here it is. If it's echoey, I'm sorry. My family's gone. They're probably going to walk through the door at any minute, so I'm going to make this really quick. Go out, subscribe to the podcast. While you're out there subscribing, give us a rating or a review. And now I'm on to our guest. Our guest today is Rodney Bowers. 3 years ago, he was given 6 months to live after a cancer diagnosis. And since he's here to talk to us today, he obviously beat the odds. He beat that 6 months. And the reason was Rick Simpson Oil, a friend of his from Michigan, reached out to him and said, hey man, I've got this stuff you need to try. It's going to change your life. And it really did. It was life-changing. It was life-extending. And now Rodney has become an outspoken advocate for the plant and is happy to tell his story with us today. So without further delay, here is Rodney. Rodney, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
I'm super excited that you reached out to me. We're on a Facebook group together, and I shared a episode the other day, and you said, hey, if you ever want to hear about curing cancer, let me know. And so I said, yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you came to discover cannabis as medicine.
Okay. Well, I was down in Houston, down there working for 2 years. I finally finished that job, come home, back up towards Dallas. And, I went back to normal practices, doing my normal work, remodeling and everything. One day I just got extremely tired and went home. The wife found me in the backyard. I'd been asleep, I guess, for about 4.5 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
She took me straight to the hospital. Of course, she had to get a buddy of mine to come over and help her get me situated and everything. And, as soon as I got there, they said my blood was septic. And they put me on a week of nothing but 3 different kinds of antibiotics, just pumping into me continuously. And then on the 5th day, they come in there and says, well, we're going to send you home, release you. And I said, well, okay, do I need to take any medication? What do you recommend? They said, no, just go home and get your affairs in order. I'm like, for what? I'm just feeling bad. They said, well, you got inoperable 3rd stage liver cancer. It's hepatocellular. And outside chance 6 months.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just floored by that. I don't go to the doctor,
Yeah.
I guess the natural guy thing, don't go to the doctor.
Uh-huh.
I was floored.
Yeah, and just to come out of left field like that.
And he told me, and this is what, the real kicker that eat on me for a long time was, he said, one day you'll just get sick and you'll want to come here to the hospital. He said, but the next 3 or 4 days you won't remember, and that'll be your last week. And I'm just, I've been healthy, working all my life, doing the regular guy thing. I decided, I need a second opinion real quick. Went and got my second opinion, and it was confirmed. Said there wasn't nothing left to do, no chemo, no radiation. Wasn't no chance of getting a new liver. So I said, well, heck, I'll just go to the VA. I had never used any of my Veteran Affairs services, and trucked on down there and walked in the door, and they couldn't find any record of my service.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just like, well, yeah, this snowball's getting bigger and bigger as it rolls down the hill.
Yeah.
Well, I got a little upset on that, and I went back home and gave up. I just gave up. I didn't know what I was going to do to set my wife up, get her ready for this or anything. Got on Facebook here and telling everybody bye. Just pretty much, glad to have known you, enjoyed our time, but I'm not going to make it. A veteran buddy of mine from up in Michigan called me. He said, Rodney, he said, you get your ass up here. He said, pardon my French. He said, you get up here. He said, I can help you. I'm thinking, what the heck's an old army drunk going to do for me? A doctor can't do.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, shoot, one more last trip. At least, I'll go up and see what he's got on his mind. I wasn't out of the truck 10 minutes after I made it there. He had me in the kitchen. He was showing me how to make RSO, Rick Simpson Oil. I'm totally lost, but he made a great big batch. He told me how to take it, showed me how to make it. And he said, if you'll just keep taking it, you'll be all right. My wife didn't even think I'd make it back home. She figured I would. So she let me go just to appease me, I guess. But after I got back home, of course, I went right back to the bed. I couldn't walk, couldn't go to the restroom on my own or anything. 2 weeks later, I got up out of bed and went to the bathroom on my own without even thinking. And then caught myself. And a month after that, I was able to walk down to my garage. That was a great day.
Yeah.
That was a great day. First time I've been able to get out of the house and walk, for 3 months. Well, next thing come up, I was supposed to go see the Social Security doctor that he was going to put me on disability. Walked in the door and he said, "You don't have cancer." Never even looked at me or nothing. I thought, yeah. I'm still waiting to die. I'm waiting on that one day to get sick. So I went through that rigmarole, and of course they, give me my disability. And as soon as I started feeling better, I said, "There's something to it."
Yeah.
And I was in a liver support group, and I kept watching people coming in there, and it was so depressing.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking watching everybody pass, and I'm sitting there feeling like I'm getting better. My pains, I don't have pains anymore. My liver isn't hard anymore. It's I don't have sickness. I'm still weak. I'm still weak. But as of right now, I am NED. No evidence of disease. I am cancer-free. Thank God for cannabis.
Wow. That's incredible. So how long after you started taking the Rick Simpson oil did you go back to the doctor and they gave you the NED diagnosis?
9 months. I was too scared.
Yeah.
A protocol is 60 grams in 90 days. And so I pretty much done 3 protocols before I was brave enough to even go get checked. I know it sounds, I don't know. I don't care how big and strong you are and all that stuff. When you get cancer, you end up like a little baby.
Yeah, no. When somebody tells you you're going to be dead in 6 months, I think any person on the face of the earth is just going to be crippled by the fear of dying.
Well, that day that I hit 6 months, I pooped and hollered, and then I sat back and I started counting all over again for the next 6 months. But after the first year, well, I've never looked back.
Now, when you went back to the doctor, after the 3 protocols were done, you went back to the doctor. What did they do? Did they do like more scans or blood tests or?
I done another MRI and a CT scan, and then he done the blood work and everything to see if there was any, cancer cells or what quantity of cancer cells in the sample. And I had less than a regular, normal person every day. That, they have everybody has a cancer cell or two floating around in their body somewhere. And he said it's the oddest thing he had ever seen, because I had less than a 3. I'm not sure what that meant, but and see, when I first went in, I never told him I had cancer. I just said I'd like to get a scan to find out, what's wrong with me. And they couldn't find anything wrong with me, other than just being an old knothead.
So did you ever go back to the doctor that originally diagnosed you?
Nah, I felt my accomplishment was me living. I didn't need to go back and tell him. What I did do was I started a group called 420 RSO Cancer Survivors, and I've been doing nothing but that since then, is helping other folks with cancer.
Now, you mentioned that you were in a liver group. Once you got your all clear diagnosis, did you go and tell those people what you were doing, or were you kind of afraid of what the backlash might be?
Heck no, I shouted. I didn't care who heard me. I didn't care family, that, and I got some family that looked at, just, I'm talking Bible Belt.
Oh yeah,
Christian,
I know, man. I live in it. I'm where you used to be, so I totally get where you're coming from.
They actually seen how I was before,
yeah,
and then they see how I am now, and they're firm believers. They are definitely firm believers. For the last 3 years, I try to help anybody, even other countries that'll get a hold of me. I'll even talk to them on the phone and tell them how to do it. I go to individuals' homes, teach them how to do home extractions and everything, so that you're able to cure yourself.
What was your feelings toward cannabis before you went up to see your buddy in Michigan? Did you were you a teetotaler and never touched the stuff, or did you just think it was something you did for fun?
It was a fun deal. Older brothers, country boys, we'd do the normal stuff. I've smoked weed, I guess, pretty much all my life, but nothing heavy. For cannabis, that has been, we've been taught it so bad for so long. To turn out to be what it is, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. THC and CBD do not kill cancer outright. They start the osmosis process to, for cell death. And there's different types for hormonal and non-hormonal, doing your mixes on oils and stuff like that. That, I guess, getting a little bit ahead of myself there.
When your buddy started showing you about RSO, I'm sure you probably had never heard of that, or had you heard of it? Did you do any sort of research and kind of find out about that, or was this completely out of left field for you?
After I talked to him on the phone that day, I immediately got right on and started Googling, Rick Simpson, and trying to learn about it and read everything I could and find out. I thought, well, it's worth a try. I sat there listening to Rick Simpson. It worked for him, and then you see, back then I think there was only one other person that actually said that cannabis had helped them. And, so I thought, I got to at least give it a try, at least believe in it. It's the only thing I got. No Western medicine's going to help me. Everybody's turning me down. Yeah, now, maybe if I'd have had a real, real good insurance, they'd probably kept me in the hospital and, and led me along and made as much money they could off of me. That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, it might have been a blessing that they didn't want to do chemo or radiation on you, because then your body wasn't destroyed by all that.
I do believe so. If they would just kept me in the hospital, I probably wouldn't be here now. I'd have never found out about RSO.
What'd your wife think about you going up there to do that?
She hated to see me go, and she let a real good friend of mine take me up there. And I didn't know it at the time. She told him that you better bring him back and bring him back kidding.
Yeah.
I've tried to get her to sit down with me and try to tell her side, because I know it's a total different reality than what I remember over on my side, of being sick. And cancer does make you a kind of a butthole. It does make you angry. but there is a lot of, why me? What did I do? What, is this because I'd done something wrong to, somebody back years ago or something? Everything just run through your mind. I always thought I helped people and done good and been a good person, never been to jail, all that good stuff. Nope, cancer don't care. They don't care what color you are, what country you live in, or nothing.
Well, I guess if you had never been diagnosed with cancer, you wouldn't have ever found out about Rick Simpson Oil, and you wouldn't be out there telling lots and lots of people about the healing power of this plant.
Yes, ma'am. It's destiny, I guess. I made a little deal with the man upstairs. I told him, dude, I said, if he lets me live, it's all I'll do the rest of my life. And I'm doing it.
Yeah, you are.
I'm trying to do it. Trying to do it.
Are you on any sort of maintenance dose right now?
Yeah, it's about 1 gram a month. Just real small, just enough to keep the devil, at bay. That's the way I think of it anyway. But yeah, you definitely want to keep up with the maintenance, because I personally do know of a gentleman that cured his daughter twice, and each time he stopped. Well, the third time he said he's not going to stop.
So for folks who aren't familiar with Rick Simpson Oil, tell us a little bit about what it is, and maybe even a little bit about Rick Simpson, or where this Rick Simpson Oil came from.
Well, Rick Simpson, he was looking through, I don't know, it's kind of an odd deal on his, how he found out. He had read out of a magazine years earlier about cannabis helping, the study that, is kind of, I'm just a small chapter in a magazine but he kept it in his head. And then one day he had a piece of skin cancer on his arm. So he decided to set out to see if he could cure that. Well, RSO is extracted cannabinoids that you pull out of, good medicinal plants. Yeah, you can use, isopropyl alcohol or ethanol, there's many things you can use to extract. But what it does, in our body, we have an endocannabinoid system. And in cannabis, there is cannabinoids. And as we ingest it into our body, they do turn into endocannabinoids. The cannabinoid system goes to every function of our body. Just like Rick Simpson learned by putting the oil on skin cancer, he covered up with a Band-Aid, and it was gone in 4 days.
Oh, wow. So he actually used it externally. He didn't take it in internally.
Well, at first. Later on, he acquired lung cancer. He'd worked for big buildings down in the bottom, putting the insulation around pipes. And years ago, it's very hazardous.
Right.
Well, he ended up getting lung cancer, so he just incorporated into taking it orally. Thus, eventually it cured him too, and that's the turning point where he just went full bore and started trying to help as many people as he could.
Yeah.
There's many videos on YouTube that shows you how to extract it, and you can do it safely at home. You can order machines to where you just put your cannabis in there and your alcohol in there, hit a button, and walk away.
When you started dosing yourself, what was your dose at that point? You say you're on a 1 gram a month maintenance dose right now. What were you taking when you first started?
As much as I could, for as long as I could. There wasn't no little dose chart where you started out half the size of a grain of rice. That's how potent it is. Just a little smidge. And you do that for a week, and then you double that to where you're taking a grain of rice size.
Wow.
And you do that for a week, and then you double it. And you get up to where you're taking 22 to 24 drops, or 24, or the size of rice, drops, which is approximately 1 gram. And that 1 gram will just flood your system, and that's what gets everything going. Now you'll start to hurt, a little bit more as it starts to be effective on you.
Uh-huh.
And really, it's just the cancer fighting to survive. And, the THC and CBD say, go to sleep. You can adjust, if you feel like you get too high. You can drop down. Instead of doing 2 or 3 times a day, you can do it just one time at night. If you feel like you've taken too much, You can chew on some peppercorns, drink some water, and you'll come down within 30 minutes.
Okay.
You cannot overdose on this. I don't care how much you eat or if they hook the pump truck up to you. You cannot overdose on it. It will increase the effects of morphine and stuff like that.
Were you on any sort of pain medication when they sent you home?
None whatsoever.
Oh, wow. So they just sent you home with nothing.
They gave me a number to a hematologist.
Wow.
Which I thought was really odd. They're still worried about the septic blood, but
I'm assuming the septic blood was because of the cancer, right?
yeah, it was. It had started out as a low-grade infection, is what they told me, in my kidney or in my liver, and so it developed from there. And he actually said if that blood poisoning don't kill you, then the cancer probably will. And that it was just all some of them little remarks they made was just really affected me for months and months and months.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like they were too terribly caring in the way they delivered the news to you.
No, ma'am, they sure were.
This was, 3 years ago that you were diagnosed and given 6 months to live?
Yes, ma'am, in 2017. And my 6 months would have been that December.
So it's almost 3 years to the day.
Yes, ma'am. I'm still here, still doing great. It's, I can get out and mow my own yard now. I can do whatever I need to do, get out and dig a hole. I can be me again. It's a whole new life.
Now, did you have any trouble? I mean, in Michigan at the time, I guess 3 years ago, did they have a medicinal program in Michigan at the time, or was this all black market stuff that y'all were doing?
No, he was actually a caregiver.
Okay.
And he had I don't remember if it was 5 or 6 patients, and he was allowed to grow their medicine for them. And he would actually go by and drop it off deliveries, and that's where he got more comfortable using the oil and seeing how it was working. When he, called me and said, "I can help you."
Yeah.
He was confident, and I was scared to death.
Did you have trouble once you got back to Texas getting access to good quality, medicinal plant, or did your buddy kind of hook you up with that?
He actually used about 5 pounds of cannabis and made me a huge bowl full, and it was enough for me to take for the 9 months before I went back. Plus, I helped 2 other people. I helped 2 other people with it at the same time. And one of the reasons I did leave out of Texas is, you get caught with that oil 1 gram. Back then, it was 10 years mandatory, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my time in jail just to live.
Right, and then you probably wouldn't have even lasted 10 years probably, because they wouldn't have given you access to cannabis-based medicine.
Correct. Yeah, they'd have just cut me off and then let me dwindle.
Yeah, it would have just been a death sentence. Well, I got to tell you, Oklahoma's law is about one of the best in the nation. So I'm pretty jealous of our neighbors to the north that they have such a good law.
We are working on some good programs. We're trying to implement some penny a gram RSO programs up here for folks that just cannot afford it and everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of the dispensaries up here they'll sell it to you at cost. If you have cancer or, an affliction, you're needing it, which is great. I applaud every one of them that do it. That's just outstanding for the community.
Yeah, that's what I will say about the folks that I've been in contact with in Oklahoma. A lot of them, it's not just about the money. It really is about the patients. These people that are growing and have the dispensaries, they really do care about patients.
It's truth. I pretty much exhausted all my resources, just helping. I can't help it. I don't care, I don't care if I go broke. God let me live. So I could go broke helping, It's a good feeling.
Absolutely. And to find healing and something that we've been told for almost a century now is the devil's lettuce, and to find that this is like a miracle plant. It's hard to just sit there and be quiet and not tell everybody.
That's right. I thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to get on your show and be able to spread it out even farther. I mean, everybody needs to know about this. Other than clothes, and it can be made into wood, it can be made into fuel. It sucks toxins out of the air. It actually cleans the air. It's a renewable service or a provider for like the wood industry and everything, or paper industry. And with the CBDs, they're making new drugs that actually kill the super bugs that are out there. And, so they're. It works for Alzheimer's, works for leukemia, liver cancer. My brother used it for his prostate cancer, and it's gone. I know a lady that had 7% use of her kidney, and they gave her 2 weeks. Well, that was 11 months ago, and she's still just hugging my neck every time she sees me. That's what it's all about.
I tell you, I think the cannabis community is probably one of the most welcoming communities out there. And just, it doesn't matter if you were a teetotaler and thought everybody that used cannabis ought to be thrown in jail. Once you come around and see the light, they just welcome you in.
It's a wonderful thing. Kind of makes you look back on the 60s and think, them hippies knew something was going on.
They had it all figured out. We were the ones that were wrong.
Right. Yeah. Well, we were being led the wrong way.
Well, Rodney, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I hope that this will inspire other people who get basically a death sentence issued to them by doctors to reach out and look for alternative medicines. And, cannabis is a great alternative medicine. Even if they don't get 100% healing, if they can at least get their life extended and quality of life improved, what do they have to lose, honestly, once you've had a death sentence given to you?
Yeah, that's one good thing. After you start taking the RSO, you start getting rid of every one of these pills that the doctors give you.
Mm-hmm.
A gentleman on that has leukemia right now, he does not take any pills except RSO.
Wow.
All pain medication is gone. He said it doesn't work on me. He said the RSO works. It's great. And if anybody needs to get a hold of me, they can hit me up online or that 420 RSO cancer survivors, and I'll sure help.
Yeah. I'll put a link to that group in the show notes for today's episode. That way, if folks who are interested are in joining that group and getting more information from you and from other patients that have survived cancer, they can find that link on the show notes page for today. If you'll message that to me, sometimes Facebook will shadow ban groups that have anything to do with cannabis. So if you'll send me the link, that'll help me out. I can put that on the show notes. That way folks can find you.
I do appreciate it, Ms. Rachel. I do appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm always happy to speak to anybody about cannabis as medicine, and so it's absolutely been my pleasure. And man, I'm glad that your buddy from Michigan hollered at you. That's that would have been a much different outcome if he hadn't.
I think of him a lot different now than just an old grunt, no army grunt.
Yeah, he's a lifesaver.
I mean, seriously, yeah, owing my life. He said to pay it forward, so.
You're doing it.
Jumping all over that.
Yeah, you're doing it. That's
yes,
awesome.
Ma'am.
That's
yes,
awesome.
Ma'am.
Well, thanks a lot, Rodney. I really appreciate you sharing this.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Rodney. Have a good one.
All right, girl. You too. Have a great day.
You too.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Show notes for today's episode can be found out at cannabishillsby.com/113. If you're listening to the podcast episode immediately after it's been released, don't go out and look for it because I'm on vacation. Haven't had time to update the website. I'm just trying to get the podcast episode out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope the audio quality has been good enough for you. We will not be back on Thursday of this week, and we probably won't have an episode on Monday because I didn't have an opportunity to get an episode recorded before we went out of town, and I am out of town with a bunch of family, and trying to get an episode, an interview recorded while I'm out of town with all these people in the house. That ain't going to work. So we will be back here when we get back. It'll be probably week after next. And until then, you guys have a great week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming back time and time again. Tell 3 people about the podcast. Thank you. Hit the subscribe button and you'll never miss an episode of the Cannabis Heals Me podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or whatever podcast app you're using. Do you have a suggestion for a guest on Cannabis Heals Me? Send an email to podcast@cannabishealsme.com. We'd love to hear from you. Please do not take any information from Cannabis Heals Me or its guests as medical advice. Contact your licensed physician before taking cannabis or using it for medical treatments.